class, welcome back. We're in week 5 and now we're on to lesson 5.2, which is all about the identify step in the design spiral. So you were introduced to the design spirals last week, and we went through all the different steps, and now what we're going to do the next few weeks is just dive a little bit deeper into each one of them. And I want to spend just a few more minutes talking about, in this lesson, talking about the identify stage. So as you know, identify is the first of all of the sequence of steps in the design spiral. And I say the first because that's what when you do challenge to biology, we start with identify. But as we said last week, you can really enter the design spiral anywhere. But for the purposes of our process, we're going to start with identify. And as you recall, identify is all about identifying the real challenge. So we start with a design brief that's usually about some kind of a thing, a noun. And what we really want to do is figure out what we want our design to do. What is the real challenge, the real design challenge we're trying to get at, with the goal of distilling down the basic functions. So instead of asking what it is we want to design, and that's really what our brains are trained to do, we want to ask, what do we want our design to do? And to really get down to the functions, we're going to have to relentlessly ask ourselves, why do you want to do that? And as you recall from the Biomimetic taxonomy sheet, this is all about how you can think about functions in nature. So for example, if you look at your sheet, I know you can't see it in this little screen here, but this says move or stay put. And one way to do that is to attach. You can attach either permanently or temporarily. So one function might be to attach something permanently, right? So these are the this kind of language that you want to end up with when you identify your functions. Let's just take a look at what we mean by that. So let's just say we're going to design something extremely simple we're all familiar with. Your design challenge is to design a coffee cup. Okay, so that's the thing. So what we want to design is a coffee cup, right? And if you're like me, this is my coffee cup, this is what would pop into mind if someone says coffee cup, this is what I think about, right? Well, if you guys are designers, you've been trained in design thinking, so you use your design thinking skills to get started with the goal of busting open your solution space to beyond thinking about a conventional coffee cup. Be divergent, let your brain open up, and then we can distill down the functions. So we want to ask ourselves, what does a coffee cup do? Well, of course, we want to hold coffee. That's kind of the duh, right? That's the most obvious, but that's a great place to start. And then we say, well, why do you want to do that? Well, actually, I want to hold hot coffee, and I want to hold hot coffee for long periods of time, and I want it to hold so that it doesn't spill or leak. And well, the cup itself, I don't want it to break or crack or splinter or crumble or dissolve or melt or off gas, because it's going to be liquid in it. It's going to be hot liquid. And well, I want to hold enough coffee, not some gigantic quantity, but not so little. And I want to be able to hold and be able to keep my hands from burning. Oh, okay, that's another thing I want my cup to do. And I want to be able to drink out of it, and I want to drink out of it without dribbling when I drink. Okay, so you can see by using your design thinking, something as simple as a coffee cup does a whole lot of things. And then you think, well, actually, what's that little thing there? Well, maybe I want my coffee cup to advertise or make some kind of statement about me. That may be a whole set of new purposes, new do's you come up with for your coffee cup. Then you think about, well, when I'm not using it, I want it to be washable. And again, there's a whole set of functions you could think about relating to storing the cup itself, or washing the cup itself. And if you think about it, you want to enable a multifaceted, pleasurable experience, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be about the coffee, about the drinking. It might be about just having a coffee cup by your side, or thinking about the pleasure of a coffee break. Okay, so you get the picture that just by asking yourself, what do you want your coffee cup to do, and using your design thinking skills, what seems like a really trivial exercise actually comes up with a huge long list of functions, right? But that's not the kind of functions we're looking for quite yet, right? So when we do identify, you start with the do's, all these different things you want your design to do. And then you really think about, well, what functions does a coffee cup perform? And this is when, let me flip back to it. This is when thinking about the language in the biomimicry taxonomy comes in handy. So if you use that sheet, you start translating the things you want your design to do into functions. Say, well, if I want to hold coffee, that might translate to store liquid, right? And I want to be able to drink out of it, which means I want to be able to distribute liquid. Well, and it's hot coffee, right? So I want to be able to, I want to, stay hot for a period of time. So I want to store heat. And those things we talked about maintaining, we don't want it to crack or crumble. That's managing structural forces. When I put it down on the table, I don't want it to crack, right? When I put hot coffee in it, I don't want it to experience some kind of a shock and crack open. I want to be able to take the impact of being tossed in a dish tub. I want to attach it temporarily to the table, right? And I also want to attach it temporarily to my hand. So those are functions we want the coffee cup to perform. And getting to this little advertisement here, we want to send a signal, and it's a visible sort of a signal. Okay, so you're getting the idea of how something as simple of a coffee cup has a whole long list of functions. And of course, there's a whole lot more. We're just tapping into it. So when I ask you to do something like come up with 10 functions you want your design to perform, at first you go, oh my gosh, it seems like so many. You can see why, oh my gosh, that's hardly any, right? So, okay, so that's what identify is about. And it's fun to play around with this. I'm going to have you revisit the Ask Nature website. Again, revisit the Biomimicry taxonomy. Go through that website again. I know you've done it before, but this time I want you to focus in on thinking just about functions, all right? Identifying functions. And again, go through the site tutorial, go through those steps. And again, keeping your eyes and ears open about the part related to identifying functions, okay? And then you're going to go through practicing identifying functions. I got a little worksheet for you. So I'm going to give you a design challenge, and then you're supposed to come up with what is it the design intended to do, and then translate that to functions, okay? And I give you one row of examples, and then some just design challenges, and you come up with the do's and then the functions. And then after that, you're going to use, identify the functions you want your biomimetic design project to perform. And you can do that on your own, or you can use a blank version of this sheet to get you started. Okay, so that's all I want to talk about for now. And then we'll talk about how to translate those functions in the next video or in the next lesson.